This is KGW News at 5.
We begin at 5 with breaking news. Amid this crazy winter weather, a man and two kids have been swept away by high waves along the Oregon coast. Crews managed to save the man and one of the kids. We don't know their conditions. The other child, though, is still missing. This is video from Cannon Beach earlier today, and we're told this actually happened this afternoon just south of what you're looking at near Falcon Cove. We're monitoring this closely, and we'll keep you posted as we get updates. And by the way, of course, all week people have been buzzing about the king tide and how crazy things are getting out on the coast. And right now there is a high surf warning in effect until 8 tonight. Waves could be as high as 30 feet. And then a different but equally dangerous story up on Mount Hood. ODOT is warning people to stay away, and meadows even closed early. A big headline: winds are topping 80 miles per hour in some points. And officials say that, combined with heavy snow that we've seen, is wreaking havoc on highways, and drivers just can't handle it. You can see how slowly they're going here. This is a live look at Highway 26 at Ski Bowl. So let's bring in meteorologist Joe Ranieri now. And Joe, a lot to watch, but let's start with those dangerously high waves on the coast where that poor child is still missing at this point.
Absolutely heartbreaking to hear, Maggie. We've been seeing a lot of video and pictures of online people wanting to see these king tides, and they're very dangerous, as you can see. And the waves are going to continue to be anywhere from 30 to 35 feet. So you can kind of see as we look at the map that shows how big the swells will be tonight and much of tomorrow. Anywhere from 30 to 35 feet tonight, and then as you look here, they're going to be holding pretty strong even into tomorrow morning up and down the Washington and Oregon coast, a little bit into the southern Oregon coast. They don't really start to kind of calm down, if you will, until the later part of late tomorrow night and into the early part of the week. So if you're going to be doing any storm watching, do it from a safe distance, maybe inside a hotel room if you can. Here's a live look over in Cannon Beach. Temperature of 45 degrees, and we're going to continue to see some scattered showers off and on the rest of your Saturday night. Heading into the overnight hours, we'll see another system move in, a steady amount of rain late tomorrow or late tonight and into early tomorrow morning. The other thing we're tracking is the wind. It's kind of breezy out through the west end of the Columbia River Gorge. Right now, relatively calm in terms of the windy conditions along the coast. But as we head into the later part of tonight, Astoria, you'll be seeing gusts up to about 20 miles per hour around 8 o'clock. And then early tomorrow morning, those gusts kick up to about 35 to even 40 miles per hour. And we'll be seeing some of those breezy conditions throughout much of the valley as well. Looking at the satellite and radar, the big story is going to be throughout the Oregon Cascades again tonight with all those snow showers. A winter storm warning is in place. You can see it's picking up some scattered showers along the coast range and a little mix of some rain and snow right around 2,500 feet. So we'll be traveling over the mountain passes. That includes the coast range and the Oregon Cascades. Be prepared for some heavy snow. And here's a look at some of those watches and warnings. That purple color is a winter storm warning. That's in effect basically all weekend long. Another 10 inches overnight, another 14 possible by the end of tomorrow. And I'm also tracking the threat of valley snow. I'll talk more about that in detail coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe, thank you so much. And more now on those terrible conditions on Mount Hood. You saw Joe zoom into it. ODOT, rare warning from them today, warning drivers to stay away from the mountain. So here's that live look again. And ODOT is saying that drivers have been spinning out and getting stuck. And some of our cameras actually are even iced over, and they're having trouble up there too. We can't even show you Route 35 because that one went down during the storm. Several stretches of that highway have been closed on and off, and we're told more closures could follow.
I think the wisest choice to be, if you're going up over Mount Hood, would be to just maybe wait until conditions improve. Could be Sunday or Monday as conditions get better. If you have to go up over Mount Hood, and many people are going to be enjoying the ski resorts up there, but people who are going up there need to allow a lot of extra time and to expect very difficult driving conditions.
ODOT spokesman there. By the way, if you are dead set on heading up to the mountain, ODOT is begging people to bring chains with you and know how to use them. And even still, just know whiteout conditions will make it a dangerous drive. And it's also a good idea to keep a winter driving emergency kit in your car in case something goes wrong. So aside from those chains, the Washington County Sheriff's Office suggests having things like jumper cables, a first aid kit, an ice scraper, extra hats, jackets, and gloves, plus snacks and water.
You never know, in one of these weather events, you could easily get stranded, be without water, be without food, be without communications. So it's important to have, something to have in that back pocket. And it's good in case of any emergency.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another item, by the way, to throw into that kit is a phone charger so that you don't have to worry about battery life. And of course, you can call for help if you need it. And then in other parts of the country, winter storms are even worse, particularly in the Midwest and Deep South. We're seeing reports that at least 8 people have died and tens of thousands are without power at this point. Here's NBC's Chris Pallone.
In Pickens County, Alabama, not far from the Mississippi state line, at least 3 people were killed when an apparent tornado blew through Saturday morning. The sheriff says a search is underway for other potential victims as crews clear trees and power lines from the area. The fast-moving but dangerous storm, part of a line crossing the country, stretching from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada, bringing heavy rain, high winds, and even ice and snow to the entire Mississippi Valley. In Lubbock, Texas, a firefighter and a police officer who responded to 2 accidents on Interstate 27 were killed Saturday when another car crossed the median and struck them. Another firefighter also struck is in critical condition.
It's a huge loss for the public safety community here, and it was very unnecessary. If people would respect road conditions, things like this wouldn't have to happen.
It was the second straight day of deadly weather this system has spawned. 3 people died in Louisiana overnight, including an elderly couple near Shreveport. Their mobile home was found 200 feet away from its foundation. Tens of thousands of people are without power from the Midwest through the Deep South. The storm is quickly moving east, but leaving downed trees and power lines in its wake. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And we will, of course, keep tracking weather conditions over the next several days. As always, you can be sure to download the KGW app to get the latest info right at your fingertips. It's very useful. All right, the effort to turn the never-used Wapato jail into a 500-bed homeless shelter and addiction treatment center took another step today. The I Believe campaign, as it's being called, started today. And the challenge now is to raise about $2 million in the next couple of months. KGW's Art Edwards was there for the unveiling of plans for the Bybee Lakes Hope Center.
That's right, Maggie. That's what they're going to be calling what they would put at what has been the Wapato facility. It has been empty, that facility, for years. Now there is a real possibility that we'll have new life as a facility that can help people. Real estate developer Jordan Snitzer bought the property back in 2018. He talked about reviving it as a homeless shelter at that point, but as plans faltered, the facility was scheduled to be demolished. And that was until Snitzer met with Alan Evans. Evans is the founder of an outreach and reentry program called Helping Hands. He came up with the idea of the Bybee Lakes Hope Center. These are the drawings that you're seeing of that center. People got a chance to look at the plans of that proposed 500-bed facility today. Evans says the Wapato jail facility is perfect.
If I wanted to have a building built anywhere to provide the services that our organization believes people need, it would be this one. So it was a no-brainer for me to say, why would you tear that down? And why don't you take a look at us and see if we can come together with a plan.
So right now the push is on to raise the remaining $2.5 million that they need to be able to turn the Bybee Lakes Hope Center into a reality. If you'd like to learn more about that project, you can go to kgw.com and click on News Links. Maggie?
All right, Art Edwards line for us. Art, thank you so much. Well, today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. It's obviously a tough topic to tackle. It's one that's often left in the shadows, but local groups are trying to change that. So now let's go to KGW's Brittany Falkers. Brittany, you sat in on a community event today that was designed to really tackle this, and it turns out it's a big problem here in Portland.
Yeah, interesting enough, Portland is actually oftentimes cited as one of the highest rates for youth juveniles for sex trafficking in the country. And that's why the Junior League of Portland brought advocates and local organizations together today to raise awareness and hopefully find some solutions.
It is hidden in plain sight.
Human trafficking. You hear about it in the headlines, but it's an issue that's hard to see until it hits someone you love. Saturday, the Junior League of Portland brought the topic to the forefront.
It really happens to the girl, the boy, the transgender youth next door. And the reality is, it's huge. These kids are born here, these kids are raised here, these kids are sold here, and they're purchased here by the members of our community.
Cassie Trahan is the co-founder of A Village of One, a Portland-based nonprofit serving young victims of sexual exploitation. She was one of several speakers Saturday, sharing insight on the issue right in our own backyard.
Our mission is to serve youth.
New data from the Oregon DOJ and DHS identified 746 victims of human trafficking across the state from October 2018 to 2019.
And we know that number's low, and it's the first time the Department of Justice has released numbers statewide, and so we're expecting to see that number be much higher next year as we increase our ability to capture those numbers.
Hard to quantify and shrouded in stigma.
That it isn't necessarily someone who's being grabbed physically off a street, but rather a young person who is vulnerable for any number of reasons. Perhaps they're living in poverty, perhaps they're experiencing homelessness, perhaps their family life is unsettled, who are vulnerable to this.
Changing that perception starts with education and documentaries like the one shown at Saturday's event.
They are always searching for something, they're always searching for love or care or, someone to pay attention to them.
Saturday's event focused on the problem of human trafficking, but also solutions. The Junior League kicked off their Delicates Drive with a goal of collecting 10,000 new undergarments to support survivors. The league's president, Gina Roman, says many victims of human trafficking have to surrender their undergarments for evidence and may not have the resources to buy new ones.
So we're giving them a piece of their self back. So it's so much more than just an undergarment. It's the significance behind it for these survivors.
Oh, it's a really interesting point to end on. Okay, so Brittany, this is obviously hugely complicated. Stigma is something that you addressed in the package, and that plays an issue when it comes to just perception of who's being trafficked and just the problem as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to put it in this other category when you don't see it. And right. so much of the time we think of physical coercion, right? As Commissioner Jayapal said, taking somebody off the street physically, putting them in cages. And while that does happen, that's not the majority of what we see. We often get this imagery of movies like Taken with Liam Neeson, of this somebody overseas and somebody crossing borders. Oftentimes it is an emotional coercion. These are loved ones, these are boyfriends, these are friends of the family that find vulnerable children, offering them love, and instead bring them into trafficking.
Yeah, so many demographics that exist in our society who are especially vulnerable. We just don't think about it.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a documentary, that full documentary actually that I mentioned in there, that is all available online. The Junior League wants you to share it. They want you to see it. It's the best way to get people to know what's going on and educate themselves.
All right, Brittany, it's really important. Thank you so much.